Hi everyone, it's Tarnished Treasures, and in today's video I'm going to share secondhand finds that I have purchased to decorate and create art with. So my first purchase are these paper dolls. They are Sheila Young. She did Betty Bonnet and Polly Pratt and different characters like that. So I want to say this one's Betty Bonnet off the top of my head. These were a set of 5. And they are pre-cut, which was wonderful because that saves me a lot of time. And they were only $6.50. So I thought that that was a great price. Someone had already done the cutting for me, and they are from probably about 1917. So they're antiques. I have already crafted with one. So some of the things you're going to find that I share, I plan on crafting with, and some things I already have. So I made this like couple days ago. These only just came in the mail last week. And I had this oval frame that I picked up from my church rummage sale from the summertime. And I put my last piece of letterhead from the Lace Company. And I have these French, prescription, labels. So I added that because it had the orange, kind of like a red, orange, and black, which I thought went nicely with that paper doll costume. And the cat I cut out of one of those like 1970s like field guides, and the type of cat does not have a tail. I want to say off the top of my head it's a Manx, but I'm not sure. It didn't have a tail. So I had everything laid out and I tacked it down and I was about to put it in the frame. And then all of a sudden this feather just kind of appeared on my desk. And I was like, that's interesting. It'd be nice if I could include that somehow, because I do think it has kind of a very organic and strange feeling to it. So I was playing around with it and I thought, well, it really could make this strange tail for the cat. So I took some pictures and I just went back and forth like arranging it because I didn't want to cover up, too much of the design, but I also thought it was really neat to add. So ultimately I decided to pretend like it was the cat's tail, and I'm happy with that. So these older frames are usually nailed in. So once you pull out those nails, sometimes they're not tight or they're just hard to put back in, or you misplace them. So what I've done is I've taken this poster putty and I've like caulked the seam like people would do with old glazing in windows, and it's worked out well for me. I've done that on many of my pieces. So what I'll do is I'll cut a little oval out of paper or some stiff board and I will glue that on top so it makes it look nicer. Probably rewire it so it's not as like scraggly, and then that piece will be finished. And I really enjoy collaging, something that I think is fun to just kind of watch some YouTube videos and just play around with. Then in the same vein, I also found some Christmas paper dolls, and these are a design that I don't have. So I made this piece to go along with the piece I think I shared in a previous video. I put the lace letterhead and I just kept it really simple just as a way to showcase them. Then I also shared in a previous thrift haul how I purchased this cookie cutter or biscuit cutter that's got the little wooden top. And I have a craft that I did very similar to this with the other candle hugger. It's a Holt Howard candle hugger, and I don't use taper candles, so I would never really have those displayed anyway besides just sitting. So they fit perfectly around these cookie cutter knobs, and then I just put a couple little embellishments on there. So that one was a quick one. At the independent thrift store, I did pick up 2 scissors for $1. I can never pass up these pointy petite scissors. This one's about like 2.5 inches. This one might be 3. I like to put those in little perfume bottles and vases for Halloween display. Since this is my craft room and I like to use objects that make sense with the room they are in. And a lot of times they're marked Germany. This one had a neat design right there. I think the one is actually a flower possibly. And they were inexpensive. At Savers for about $1.50, I purchased this older frame. It had a like made in the USA heavenly family picture. Joseph and I think Mary and Jesus, and just the way that it's put together with nails there. So I purchased this because that carved design looks like hearts to me, rounded hearts. So I might actually just kind of brush them with my fingertips and make them red, and maybe frame up a vintage Valentine, because I haven't done a lot of Valentine crafting. This book was probably $1 or $2, and it is an old school book. I actually cannot figure out what language this is, possibly Latin. There's just nothing that I recognize, but I don't know if Latin does accents. I don't think it's German. I don't think it's Russian. I don't know if Polish, I don't know. But I would assume maybe Latin, just because I know that people used to study that. And then there are some English translations, but I really like to have handwritten pages like this to go behind collages that I make. And I actually ran out of everything that I had, so that was a nice find. Also there for $2, I purchased this book, and it has just really nice images that I thought would be good for collaging, and some handwriting in there, then blank ones. That's nice. They were just tucked in. That was really cool. So since I ran out of my lace letterhead, I thought that had a very similar feeling to it. No date. Then that was neat with those images. And I always check the music books and like piano books and things like that, because there can be some songs, very seasonal songs, that have great illustrations. I haven't gotten lucky yet, but one day. And I thought this was neat because there's like a ton of like black like ink and notes on those pages. When I was at that thrift store, there was a sewing box filled with some vintage notions. So there was a lot of like glass beads on cards. And then there was a tomato pin cushion. So I purchased this glass jar around Thanksgiving, and I was going to do a winter scene in it, but it didn't happen. And then I thought, this reminds me of what you would put spaghetti sauce in. And I have this like growing collection of the pin cushions, and they're all different sizes and colors and materials. So I popped those in the jar. I actually had to, in several of them, empty out the it's like wood chips or wood shavings, and put it with fiberfill so I could squeeze it through that narrow opening, but you would have no clue, and I was able to get the look that I wanted. So I have this in my hutch right now, and I have space to add a few more too. And these were some of the glass beads that were in there, and I got this idea 100% from Wishes and Weeds. I used little like pinking shears with a scallop. I put some vintage Christmas paper, sewed the buttons back on, and then a little ribbon to hang it. And then I put a little bit on the back. You could make those to and from gift tags, or just little things to put on your tree or hang on a knob. And for this one, I added some bells. But when she made that, she's doing this series. It's like the alphabet in 30 minutes. So I think that she has to create some type of like junk journal collage type piece. She has 30 minutes to do it. And the idea has to come from the letter of the alphabet. So this might have been B for buttons. And as soon as she was doing that, I thought, oh, how wonderful. I have lots of these button cards. I don't know what to do with them. And I love that they combined, a lot from my stash. So those were fun. I was just watching some Netflix and sitting on the chair doing that. I picked up both of these photographs to do some Halloween crafting with. I loved that he's dressed like a magician, even though he might be like a performer, but with a top hat and everything, he does look like a magician. So I might find some type of animal to put behind him, and I'd put that out at Halloween. And then I found these two girls, and they've got this gold scallop trim. The piece looks brand new. So I just thought it was like really cool looking. And if I did something, I could like darken the shadows under them, and they would possibly look like they were floating, which could be an easy thing to do for Halloween as well. I purchased this. This would have been, I always have a coupon, so a little bit over $3. I wish it fit. I mean, actually, I probably could wear it, but it's flannel and it has this fabulous homespun feeling to it. So I picked that up to, you know, maybe make a pillow or something like that, because on the back where it doesn't have the buttons, it's a good amount of fabric. And then I also found this, paid about $1.50 for it. And it actually is a perfect color for this room. It's this really nice English fabric that has this printing on it. So I'm probably gonna cut the flowers out and use those to embellish the screen that I told you about. So you can see here that it really complements the room color. A little darker on the bottom of the walls. And then this is the screen that I have the pink fabric on. And so I might cut that out and sew it on top of that, because I'd like to embellish those a little bit more. In my hutch, I have moved some things around. I took this out of my corner cabinet. You probably would recognize it from always being on the top shelf, but I want to use them more. I just purchased these from Crate & Barrel when my daughter was 1, so they're, you know, totally safe to eat out of and use. So I put it down lower, and we've been eating our salad out of them. And you can see here, I've placed that jar. So I wouldn't have this in here at Valentine's or, you know, obviously at Christmas time, most of the stuff is going to be removed. But I feel like in the summer, oh, those are going to look so cute together. But once I make something, I have to enjoy it no matter what time of year it is. So I just have that tucked in there right now. All of these items I found at Savers, some as far back as November. So I'll start with the frogs first. I purchased these in November. I actually found them in the bags on the wall. And this one is a little silver frog that's a box. And this one, you can see is gold. It's got these green rhinestones and they all appear to be there. It's actually a desk set. It has a letter opener and it has a magnifying glass. And I have to give Moss Stone Story the credit for this one, because she purchased some to put out for Halloween. And I always think of cats and bats and spiders, but I've never thought of toads and frogs for Halloween display. So that's what I'm going to use these for. This one is marked China on the bottom. It weighs 1.5 pounds. I just measured it. It's very heavy. And this one's got some weight to it also. So what I kind of envision these kind of going together. This was at Savers, and every time I see them, sometimes they are really polished in silver, and then some have started to turn black. Reminds me of a lotus or a lily pad, and I see this as a base for a Halloween sculpture with like a swamp goddess coming out of it. So I purchased this one over all the others that I've seen because all 3 pieces come apart. So I thought that it made it really versatile, since I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to display it or create with it just yet. And then in a bag on the wall, I found 2 candle holders in this shape that were not very expensive. So I thought, well, if I really like this, then I've got more that I can create sculptures with. I always have coupons. So this was $6 and then a discount. So it was a little pricier, but if you go online to try and find some type of toad or frog, they're $15+. This one was in a baggie. It was probably like $1 or $2. This one I think was marked $5, and then I got a discount, and then the 2 candle holders were $3, and then take off 20%. So nothing was like very expensive, but a little bit higher than, you know, $1.99 at the thrift store. And then I found in 2 separate bags these tall salt and pepper shakers. So I wound up getting 4 sets. So they worked out to be about $1 per shaker. And I used these as a base to start creating a figure, because it's got a neck and it's got shoulders and it's a nice height and proportion, like it looks like a human body. So what I would do is I'd add a head and I'd add, you know, some type of costume. And this is what I'm envisioning, like a swamp goddess coming up, and then she could have like a little frog that was on there. I could always start to bend these back, especially in the front, so you could see that a little bit better. So kind of inspired to use those all together for Halloween. So I hope you enjoyed seeing what I found and got some inspiration from seeing how I've used them or hearing how I plan on using them. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.